We also met with the police and saw the evidence of the riots and the foreign agent provocateurs, that incendiary element that was injected into the country by U.S. and Israeli intelligence. What happened was terrible for the police. Hundreds of police were killed. Many were burned alive. We saw the unredacted evidence of that. The redacted evidence, of course, was much of it was broadcast on Iranian national TV. But you didn't see any of that syndicated in the Western media. So I can say categorically that the narrative that Iran massacred thousands of its own people and these peaceful democratic protesters is a total fiction. And I saw plenty of evidence to that effect, as well as reams of burned buses, burned fire trucks, EMS responder vehicles that were set on fire, aside from the police that were burned alive. So there was a real agenda there to foment instability and unrest. And then the president, Trump, then taking to the airwaves saying, this is your moment, rise up and take over your institutions. It's obvious that was incitement. So for anyone to say that that wasn't a classic color revolution, exactly as we saw in Homs in Syria in 2011 and in 2012, exactly as we saw in Maidan in February 2014, and also in Libya, Serbia, Yugoslavia, the list goes on, Eastern Europe, Belarus. We've seen this playbook. That's what happened here, clearly, but it was done on a level with resourcing that is quite breathtaking in terms of what was spent on the media propaganda campaigns in the West, what was spent in terms of Starlink terminals that were smuggled into the country. We also saw evidence of narcotics that were being distributed. And I saw that in Syria, by the way. I was really interested in that point, because how do you get people to act completely insane and violent? We also saw this with ISIS elements as well. The police there believed there were amphetamines, similar types of drugs, and spice, something called spice. These types of drugs were also distributed and injected into that. So there's a lot of disaffected youth, obviously, that got swept up in the mob violence, with very skilled and well-trained people in the back lines shooting police officers from within the crowd, using the crowd as human shields. And that's when things spun out of control very quickly, and we saw that sort of period of about 7 days of violence and instability, which the U.S. and Israel hoped to capitalize on, but didn't after the Iranians shut off the internet, intercepted a lot of the Starlink transmissions, were able to track the location of some of the terminals, and quickly were able to shut down the organizational, I think, element. That's the impression I got from the police chiefs that we met in the main municipality of Tehran, and the visual evidence that we saw as well. Why is this important? This narrative, the regime or the mullahs massacring their own people, that's the actual backstop for manufacturing consent for this war, because the nuclear conversation has fallen flat on its face.